Well, good morning, and how are you all today? And welcome to Integrative Preparedness. For those of you who are new, I'm Steve Smith. So today's the big day. The day is the day of the drill, October 4th, the big nationwide all electronic device emergency warning test rate. I made one yesterday about how I don't think that it's anything. I think that it's just a test, and it allows them to check the boxes. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, well, I think it allows them to check all the boxes. They're gonna be able to put on their websites, FEMA and Homeland Security and all that. They're gonna be able to put on their websites a whole bunch of stuff about how they ran this drill and how great it was and how much they care about the American people and how it's important for them to get bigger budgets, for all this kind of stuff. They're going to use it to pump themselves up and also to make themselves feel better. And it's going to help a lot of people feel important by going to a lot of meetings and writing a lot of papers and discussing a lot of stuff. And again, asking for more money in their budgets for next year because this is also vitally important. Well, I do think that that's what it is. But what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? And I want to address that. There were a lot of good comments yesterday, and I want to compliment everybody. I claim to have the smartest commenters in YouTube land. We're a small channel, but our viewers are extremely smart. And I want to compliment the quality and the thinking that went into a lot of the comments that I saw on yesterday's video. And I read every one of them, and there is nothing that I would dispute. People brought up the idea of, whether this was going to activate certain things within people, whether the frequency itself was going to have an effect on different things, a whole lot of things, and a lot of people are going to take some protective and preventive measures as far as with their phones and everything like that. Some people said, well, I'm gonna leave my phones at home, or I'm going to put it in a Faraday bag or cage, and I'm leaving the house and I'm taking a walk, and I'm not going to be close to anything that through which I will be able to hear whatever tone they're going to send out. We know that they can use auditory. It's early in the morning still, so excuse me on this. Anyway, they can use sound to have an effect and things like that. And I think all of those were valid questions. I had a talk with my my two younger ones as I took them to school today, and we were talking about this. And when they get to school, they all have to put their phones in their lockers. And so my daughter said, I think I'll ask to go to the bathroom right before that's going to happen, and maybe hear, see what's going to go on. I said, well, why don't you go to your locker and get your phone out and record to see if all the lockers, all these phones are going. I don't know if she's going to do it or not. But we did have a good discussion. Now, as you can imagine, my kids are, fairly well tuned up about preparedness and things like that. But this enabled us to have a conversation that was a little more in depth, and I found that they were interesting. They know that I've written all my books, and they know that I make the videos, and they know that I teach people the stuff like this. But how kids are. That's dad's stuff, and therefore it's boring. But when it comes about, through school, right? Then it's important. Or when it comes, the government, and of course they don't have, we discuss the government in my house. So they're not all enamored with that. But it helps them take it a little more seriously. And so we had a good discussion about that, and it helps. And in this case, it goes back to a matter of fact. When I first got up this morning, I noticed there was a brand new video from Canadian preppers. And I don't usually watch him. I've said that before, but I tell you what, he takes a lot of hits from people. And like I say, I think a lot of that's just jealousy. And because he's built a huge business out of preparedness. Good for him, man. And you know, from the things I've watched, he does put out some good thoughts and some good information. So if you happen to be one of these who has heard bad things about him or don't like whatever they give, I would suggest you give him a shot, because there's not a lot that I listen to, and I've never much listened to him before, but I've seen a couple, and he's made some good points, and he made one today. That is pretty much what I say all the time, and that is, use this drill as a drill. Whatever comes along, every time they're trying to scare you over something new, use it as a drill. It might be stupid, you might not believe it, doesn't make a difference, okay? Use it as, okay, while your thinking part of your brain says, that's stupid, I don't believe that, still use that and say, okay, what if it did? What if it really did happen? And then, you know, that's how you take a look at your preps, and that's how you take a look at your plans, and that gives you an opportunity to talk to members of your family and say, okay, here's what's going on. What will we do, guys? And I've mentioned that before. When we were on our trip last summertime, we sat down, and when that cannibal solar flare was headed our way, the CMEs. And we sat down and said, okay, what if it does shut everything down and we're 1,200 miles from home? And my kids had just great ideas. It helped everybody work through that. So this is, and Canadian Prepper said that, use this as a drill. He's exactly right, because, well, I say it all the time. Use these things as a drill. You know, one of the main concerns on this is that Russia had their drill. Well, matter of fact, it's already been done. They had their drill on essentially the same day. And I checked the Moscow Times. There wasn't anything about it in there, but an AP story said this. They said, as part of the drills, TV stations broadcast a notice saying, "Attention everyone, the readiness of the public warning system is being tested. Please remain calm." And then it said, Russian media said the exercise's storyline, and here's another thing that's interesting. They go into it with more depth with their people than our government does. So here's what they say. The exercise's storyline in Russia mentions the increasing danger of a conflict between nuclear powers and simulates a response to a situation in which 70% of housing and all vital infrastructure have been destroyed, wide areas contaminated by radioactive fallout, and a general mobilization announced. Okay, now some of that, of course, is for internal propaganda, in that they're wanting to gin up because of the situation with Ukraine and because of the situation with NATO. To be honest, when NATO keeps poking them, and so they're wanting to increase the awareness of their people of the impending, potential problems, and to get the people more ginned up and saying, well, those stinking NATO, Americans, Ukraine, whatever, and they're wanting to get the people on their side. Now, to this extent, they do a lot better job than our government does, and our government doesn't make any, and I'm going to make a point that I made yesterday. Our government doesn't do anything to really prepare the nation for any kind of attack like this. I mean, the government, all those guys, they have their secret places they can go and all that. And I had a discussion about this with a friend of mine yesterday, and Canadian Prepper also brought this up in his. He says they do a lot better job in their announcements, even tell people where to go for the nearest fallout shelter and everything like that. Ours doesn't. And they have made, they have prepared a lot for their people in that case. Well, ours doesn't, and probably for a couple of reasons. First off, our government doesn't care. Secondly, We have not been under the same kind of attack as Russia has in the past, and therefore we don't, and I know 9/11, that's not the same. And therefore we don't think in those terms. And even if the government is, I think it would be real hard to get the American people to think in those terms. We enjoy an isolation here that not only, well, that isolates us from the reality of potential threats, okay, because that has not been our history. But I don't think that is necessarily bad, and this was my point, is that Russia may do more to prepare for their people, but preparedness, as I've always said, is a personal responsibility. I don't want to leave my survival or my welfare up to the government, okay, in any area, any area. I mean, they don't do a very good job in anything they're supposed to do. They do a great job in the things they're not supposed to do, right? They do a great job in meddling in our lives in ways that is none of their business. But they don't do a very good job in the things they're supposed to do, protecting the border, So I disagree. Well, I feel differently than Canadian Prepper and others do about this. I don't think it's the government's business at all, or maybe it is, but I'm happy that it's left to the individual, because it really is an individual's responsibility. And the more people realize that the government's not coming to help you, the more they may have a tendency to take it upon themselves to do more for their own welfare and preparedness. So I think that that's a fairly good idea. Now, here's the thing. What if I'm wrong about this being, just a drill? What if I am wrong? And now, let me preface this and tell you what I'm going to do today. Okay, I think that would make more sense if I do it that way. What am I going to do? I'm not putting my phone in a Faraday cage. I'm going to be here in my office working. I'm going to have not only my phone on, but all my computers on. I'm going to have the TV on. Everything electronic that I can think to have on, I'm going to have on. Now, I know that some people will say, Steve, you're crazy. They're going to send frequencies that are going to affect your mind and your brain, everything like that. Well, first off, I don't have any of that stuff in me that, in one of the scenarios could be activated, okay? I don't know what's going to happen with that. When all this first came out, when this came out in 20, and I heard all what sounded at the time like craziness about the possible effects of these things, I thought, well, that's crazy, man. That's science fiction stuff. But it was being told to me by people with science backgrounds and people in the medical field, people that knew what they were talking about. And as I listened to them and I started studying, none of that stuff was outlandish. I mean, it might sound crazy, but it wasn't crazy. They were right on the mark. And, as far as nanotechnology, and I'm not going to get into it any further with that, but the idea that certain things could be activated by different frequencies or whatever is not crazy. It can. I understand that. And so it very possibly could happen. Well, anyway, why am I going to have all my stuff on? Because I want to see what happens. I want to experience it. I want to be able, afterward, to know exactly what happened. And there are good questions. There are good reasons not to do that. I want to say this. There are good reasons not to do that. But everything is about decisions. And I have always been one who would rather experience something than hide from it. And I don't mean that as a put down at all from the people who are taking defensive measures. But one of the reasons that I have a life of a lot of different experiences is because I've always kind of run toward the crazy, you know. And I want to see what it's about. I want to see what's there. And, you know, cross our fingers. Now, you can say, well, that's not a very prepared idea. Well, the preparedness lesson is that I want my own personal information. That's it. I want to experience it. However, here's the thing. And it's not just that nothing in me will be activated. I understand that acoustics, you know, auditory stimulation, certain frequencies, I understand that they can have an effect. So am I saying that I'm offering myself as a sacrificial lamb in this? Well, I guess you could put it that way. If I let me put it this way. If I thought that the evidence weighed more heavily on that happening, I wouldn't do it. However, I don't think that that's the case. But I could be wrong. You know, and that's something that everybody, I think it's important to always understand. We could be wrong. And whatever it is, you know, that we are planning for, as long as we are dealing with things that haven't happened yet and that we haven't seen for ourselves, we could be wrong. So what if I'm wrong today? What if I'm wrong and the signals that are going out has an effect on the people who have certain things in them that can be activated? The auditory stimulus itself have an effect on people without that? Well, boy, that's going to be interesting, isn't it? Now, the effect on people who we talk about may have something stimulated within them or activated, we don't know what that activation is going to be. I did see a comment saying, well, they wouldn't do that because they're going to they're going to kill off all their voters. Well, you know, it doesn't have to kill them. It just has to manipulate them. And what kind of manipulation that might be? Could it be, you know, hey, zombification? You know, I'm kind of being light with that, but I mean, it could be, but they'd still lose their voters. But it could be, you know, could it be a way of stimulating a certain percentage to begin acting more violently? And as a result of that increased violence, they're able to call for increased control, government control of people, certain areas or communications or whatever, to call for a larger police presence. I don't know. Any of these things are possible. And then that's another thing that I think it's important for everyone to realize, is that anything is possible. When you take a look and you understand that we know such a small percentage of what's really possible out there technologically, we don't know. We have no idea. When you couple that with the understanding that we could always be wrong in our opinions, I think that's the first and second step towards true wisdom. Understand the limitations of what we know. Anyway, we'll see what happens today. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to look forward to, it's going to be 1:20 Central Time where I am. So it's going to be interesting, and I'm interested in hearing your all's thoughts, both before, those of you who see this before the drill starts, and then those afterwards. And afterwards, if anybody out there thinks they're going crazy, get on here and share it with the rest of us, right? So anyway, hope you all have a good day. Oh yeah, I didn't even say, well, Stonemont mugs, right? If the world keeps going on, you still have a chance to get your Stonemont mugs and the books and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to get off here now. I am going to, when I'm done with this, I'm going to read the final chapters in the reversion. In the reversion, for those of you who are with us on the Stonemont level over there on the Patreon channel, I've been doing the audible of the first book of the Stonemont series, The Reversion. And today I'm going to finish the book out. So the entire book will be available audibly with me reading it over on the Patreon channel on the Stonemont level. Now, a lot of you are on the first level, and it's great to have you there. But if you want to hear the reading of the reversion, you want to have that, to where you can listen to it anytime you want, you can upgrade to the Stonemont level and you'll be able to get it. And if you're not with us on the Patreon channel, well, it'd be great if you were. There's a lot more over there that you'll learn from. And the links down below. Links are down below for the Patreon channel, for our how to get my books. You can either get them through Amazon, or the better way is to get them through our website, stonemont.us. That link is also down there below. And it lets me sign them, write a little note in them to you. And I love doing that. So you have a good day. It's going to be interesting. See what happens, right? And we will see. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And like I've always said, like CP said today, use this as a drill. All drills, everything in life, every potential scary thing is a drill. See what it can teach you. And I will probably talk to you later. Bye-bye.